So I started using the fertility program because when I was in student clinic, I had a few women who came to see me, and they were already coming to see me in my clinic anyway, because I was doing herbs and nutritional stuff with them, but they specifically wanted to get pregnant. So the idea was that I had to treat them constitutionally. Okay, so I started treating 2 of the women constitutionally, and they aggravated really badly. And I didn't get the remedy wrong. I gave both of them Natmur, just Natmur, and they aggravated really badly, and their follicle stimulating hormone went really high, and they were very young. And then I decided that I would do the Vannier technique with them, with this other woman who came to see me, and she got pregnant really quickly. And then I thought, well, this is a system that's designed, the whole basis of Vannier was that you never addressed what was constitutionally going wrong without first addressing the lesional and the drainage damage. And it seemed to me that if something was physically going wrong, that you had to address that first. And Vannier basically said that if you treated the constitutional, you would automatically get an aggravation if the person was not physically well. So this is like, if you're not getting pregnant, you're not physically well. If you're not getting pregnant and you've got, for example, your period is not coming when it's meant to be coming, your cycle is 35 days long, or you're ovulating on day 25 and then you're getting a cycle on day 28, then you've got a luteal phase defect. Basically, if you've got clots, etc., there's something wrong. If the blood is really brown, congested, not working, then there is something physically wrong. If you're not getting pregnant, which you're meant to do, that's the natural thing that you're meant to do, and that's not happening, then it's a physical condition that you have to treat first. And Vannier worked out a whole system where you treated with the lesional first, then you treated with the drainage, then you introduced the constitutional, then you introduced the miasmic. So what I did was I started doing that, and I started getting women pregnant, one after the other, after the other, after the other. And then I worked out along the way that I wanted to add in extra miasmic remedies according to the symptoms, and I wanted to increase the frequency of the remedies. So I started putting them all together so that I had a drainage and a lesional and constitutional weekly and a miasmic to cover all of the symptoms, and it worked. And I stopped getting aggravations. And it worked really well. And I do still use different remedies, but the majority of the time, the drainage remedy that I'm using is borax, because it matches the suppression in the mucus. It matches the suppression of estrogen after the woman's been on the oral contraceptive pill. And I'm basically using sepia continually as lesional, because that matches the cycle being out of sync. It matches the suppression, the fact that she's not ovulating. It matches the blood being really stagnant and not working very well. And basically people come back and they start to say, well, I now start bleeding straight away. The blood's nice and red. It's never been like that. Hasn't been like that since I was really young. I now have mucus at the time that I'm ovulating. I'm now not so anxious. The cycle's now in sync. It's now coming on a 28-day cycle. I'm now ovulating in the middle of the cycle. I started to introduce natrum muriaticum. In the majority of the cases is the constitutional that I'll use, because it fixes up the cycle and will actually regulate it and get the ovulation to happen right in the middle of the cycle. And I'm using the miasmic remedies to deal with all of the damage that's there. The thuya if the period's really suppressed and very scanty, the meteorinum if it's really, really heavy and lots of clots, right? And I'm using syphilinum or carcinosin if there's a repeated miscarriage issue, and it's working beautifully. And I've now got 260 babies and 31 failures. It's pretty amazing.
That is.
So the basic Vannier prescribing method is that all of the 4 remedies have to be compatible. So whatever remedies that you work out, whether the drainage, the lesional, the miasmic, the constitutional, they all have to work as one whole remedy. So basically, Vannier started with the drainage, which he prescribed for the first 5 days, the lesional for the first 5 days, and then introduced the fundamental, the constitutional, and then the miasmic. So the way that I've changed it is that I've done it so that the drainage remedy I'm doing in the morning, and I do it every single day, and the drainage remedy is the remedy that matches the disturbance of the function of the organ. So for example, borax have the rubric menses too short 1 day. So borax drainage is about where there's a suppression of the actual function of the organ. So for example, borax, Vermeulen notes that borax is from suppression from the oral contraceptive pill. It's basically the main remedy that you use for suppression of ovulation. So it's the actual function that isn't happening. So it facilitates the actual tissue process to happen. And that's borax in the program. Yep. The lesional remedy is the anatomical structural change that you see happen. So sepia is the main lesional remedy, and it's exactly what you would use and think of sepia for. You would use the sepia where there is congestion and where there's repeated miscarriage. And the rubric for that is abortion from weakness. So sepia is the actual organ, it's the physical, lesional, structural issues. So for example, when somebody's come back they've come back for a follow-up consultation and they've continually forgotten to take the sepia at night because they're going to bed, they've forgotten it, it's too hard. What will happen is I will go through the follow-up symptoms and there won't be a huge amount of difference to the quality of their bleeding and their blood at the time that they've got their period. It will still be a little bit congested, still won't be really red, and their sexual energy won't be really good. And then I'll say to them, have you forgotten to take the sepia? And they'll say, oh, look, it's too difficult, Liz, it's, yeah, too hard. So that's the sepia component, that's the lesional. So the miasmic one would be the thuya, where there's lack of ovulation from suppression post the oral contraceptive pill, where the menses are really scanty, suppressed, where there's a lot of vaginal dryness, there's a lot of candida post the oral contraceptive pill. Meteorinum would be exactly what you would think to do for meteorinum, where it's really profuse, clotted, offensive, that really dark, stagnant blood, and there's a lot of history of inflammatory conditions, which is meteorinum, where you've got polyps, cysts, etc. Exactly what you would normally think of for meteorinum, and repeated urinary tract infections. So I also added in, as an extra miasmic remedy, folliculinum. And folliculinum increases estrogen, which means that it's going to help give you a luteinizing hormone surge. So it's going to help kick in ovulation. So it stimulates ovulation. It causes an increase in progesterone, and it's there as a functional remedy in the program because it addresses all of those issues. And the natrum muriaticum is the constitutional remedy that I would use the most frequently, and that's the remedy that establishes the regularity of the menses, the mucus health, because natrum is about suppression, it's about dryness, and if the person hasn't taken exactly the same, if they've gone away and misunderstood the instructions and left out the natrum muriaticum, or they haven't taken it for some reason, then there is no change to the mucus and their cycle is still irregular. So with someone with polycystic, you give them natrum in with all the other remedies, and it'll get the period to come where it's meant to come. The practitioner benefit of the program is an amazing increase in your business because infertility is increasing. People are leaving trying to get pregnant till much later because of career choices, but also infertility is increasing. Whether it's because people have been on the oral contraceptive pill for much longer, it's an unknown entity, but it's definitely increasing statistically. Now, 25% of women are having trouble getting pregnant. So, those 25% are what's coming to me. And it's in the fertility work, and from the people who've done the fertility work, they're phenomenally busy in their practice. And one of the things that I like about it is that it makes homeopathy accessible to lots of people who would never have come to a homeopath ever before.